Why would it be any less valuable to say that this oneness is a human cosmos than it is a divine cosmos, if I do not understand those two as separate? God is. Where I am, God is. Yeah, and so that's our whole topic for the month and our topic for today, the Christ consciousness, the cosmic self. And you know, we're using this fabulous book, You Are the Universe. It's especially for those science nerds. It's really fabulous. I'm really loving it. I don't necessarily go every place that he goes with his argument and his thought process, but it is, hang on. It is certainly fabulous, and I'm losing my little box back here. And it's going to fall here in a second. So let me just put this in my pocket. There we go. So he's really trying to come from the scientific point of view, and the mystics have come from the spiritual point of view, to this notion that we are walking around with God, as the wholeness, as the oneness, as that one infinite reality. And of course, the minute we use the word God to say that, we feel like that's blasphemy, and we have a lot of issues, because usually when we use the word God, we have all of the old associations with that. It's really fascinating the way Ernest Holmes has tried to work with this, and the way Deepak Chopra is working with this in this book, to help us perhaps not become hung up with this idea about God, but to really, really understand that we're talking about a oneness, an infinite oneness. So he says something way back here in the back of the book that just made me so happy, because it's something I've been saying for years, and I love it when what I know to be true, I read in somebody else's book. I love that. I feel all corroborated. Here, a new term will be useful. Monism. Monism. Derived from the Greek monos, which means one, alone, or unique. Monism is the alternative to dualism. Monism. So this idea that there is this one infinite reality, and I think science of mind, while it's often perceived as monotheistic, is actually monism, because we do understand there's only one thing happening, and that is the universe, the infinite, the quantum field, the force, the divine, the presence, expressing and experiencing itself as the universe. Physicality, the manifest body of God, the atoms and electrons that are winking in and out of existence to create and experience life. And so this idea is something that we're exploring this month. And what does that mean for us? To really understand that we're not only walking around with God, but we're walking around as God, as us. And sometimes this is, we have to maybe disassociate ourselves with some of the old ideas. So in this book, he actually talks about a meeting between Einstein and Tagore. I'm going to butcher his first name because I'm not reading it. He was a Hindu mystic of the same time period. I think he was a little bit older than Einstein. And they met and they talked about this oneness after Einstein had really worked with his general theory of relativity and a special theory of relativity and came up with his equation and tried to really work with this, looking for the grand unified theory. And they had this meeting because he was very interested in where this mystic poet was talking about this oneness. And in the conversation, Tagore talks about, well, if we really understand this and we really experience and express this, we recognize that it's actually a human universe. It's actually a human universe because All of this we experience and express. And I went, wait a minute, what do you mean? I thought it was a divine universe. Oh, I don't know if I like that idea. And there I was, hoist up on the belief in separation. Why would it be any less valuable to say that this oneness is a human cosmos than it is a divine cosmos, if I do not understand those two as separate? Yeah, so I hope you're reading this book. I hope it's stretching your brain, because it is stretching mine. So this idea, right? So whether we say, so part of it has to do with where we're standing, right? If I'm standing in my human individualized self looking at the divine over there, and I'm one with it, is a slightly different place than when I say I am actually the divine infinite reality of the universe expressing as an individual, as a human being. But I'm still standing over here, right? And I'm standing over here, when in fact we're standing in both places at the same time. One foot in either realm, the both and, the fabulous both and paradox. So I'm having a blast with all this, because the book we're reading, plus the Roots class, plus the Science of Mind Ernest Holmes class that I'm teaching, plus the Sunday morning class, and what we're reading, all are coming together in this amazing way, reminding us of this truth. So, fasten your seatbelts. You're going to get a small portion of Thomas Troward, Hinduism, and Science of Mind in a very short period of time. All right, so here we go. So we have this idea of spirit and matter, right? And we could particularly like to say living spirit, dead matter, animate, inanimate. And the idea is that somehow our prayers and our spiritual work is to bridge the gap between the two. And the problem, of course, is if it's truly a dualistic idea, then there's no way to bridge that gap. They are fundamentally separated. But this whole understanding, this whole way of understanding reality actually sees, and it's corroborated on the quantum field, that this is a continuum. Spirit is simply matter speeded up to where you can't see it anymore, and it winks out of existence into the quantum field. And matter is simply spirit slowed down until it all of a sudden winks into existence and becomes the physical universe. This is actually a continuum, not two separate things. So we could call one side spirit and the other side spirit slowed. Or we could call one side matter and the other side matter fast. Do you see? And we are not negating the spiritual side of it if we use the term matter. That is in our concept that those two things are separate. We've been fooled into believing it, right? And so this continuum starts with the Big Bang, and then of course we have the antimatter and matter. They have this big thing that happens, and good enough. There's just a little more matter than there is antimatter. They don't completely dissolve back into nothingness, and things start to happen, and elements are formed, and helium, and then light, and then we have what are considered the building blocks of the universe: light and subatomic particles. The elements, minerals, rocks. We call this sort of the inanimate end of the scale. And, of course, over time and evolution, then that began some mysterious thing happened, which they still haven't been able to recreate in the laboratory, and life showed up. Little one-celled things that photosynthesized, and I don't know if you've ever studied lichens. They're like living minerals. They're very strange things. Lichens, moss, plants, all these little one-celled creatures, all the way to plants. And then, of course, we recognize that over time we have the animal kingdom emerge: the invertebrates, the fish, the fowl, the animals, the mammals, and everything that moves and creeps and crawls and flies and swims. And And at some point, human beings emerged in this evolutionary trajectory. And Homo sapien is where we are currently in the evolution of the human species. Homo sapien, that which knows itself as a self. And if it's a continuum, it's interesting to think about, right? And so one of the ways that these different elements are expressed, if we really understand that this is a continuum, is to look at the way this physicality moves, that one spirit has slowed down into matter. And so, we're going to, that's out of place. It's supposed to come last. So, Ernest Holmes calls it intelligence. Deepak Chopra calls it consciousness. Thomas Troward calls it intelligence. We would today call it consciousness, that this is the continuum of consciousness. So consciousness in this one end, which we call inanimate matter, right in there, consciousness has no controlled movement. It can't, the rocks don't decide to move themselves, do they? Right? They get moved by the wind and the waves and things are happening. Even the flames of a fire don't move by themselves. They move because they're burning the wood. And so this aspect of matter has no controlled movement. Plants, on the other hand, they do actually move, right? They follow the sun. They respond to each other in some form or fashion, but they don't actually pick up their roots and walk down the street, do they? So they have what's called automatic motion. They're not actually choosing to move as we understand choice. They're responding to the environment. We call that automatic movement. The animal kingdom, now you move up more, so we're not rooted in the ground anymore, and it's called controlled movement. You're right, your dog can decide to come when you say come or not. Say, yeah, whatever, where's the treat? And so in the animal kingdom, we have what's called controlled movement. There is a sense where there are choices being made, and there I want to go make my den here. I'm going to go follow, that prey there. But something is missing in all of these, and that is that in all of these, there's no sense of the movement, that something is aware, self-aware of moving. It's just moving. And so in the human being, the thing that Deepak Chopra says, that Thomas Troward says, that the Hindus said 5,000 years ago, is that consciousness awakens in the human being. So we not only have automatic movement, which is all the ways in which our bodies work and instinctively we respond to things. We also have controlled movement. We have choice, and we have the ability to make choices and decide things. But most importantly, we can notice these things. And we can see what we are doing, assuming we're paying attention. We can see what we're doing. We can see what's going on. And the idea here is that the entire trajectory of evolution the purpose of evolution is for the universe to become so that it can wake up and see itself. So I was playing around with this on those little question marks, and I thought, well, this is all about movement. And now we're self-aware and we can see. I went backwards. I thought, well, this must be movement by thought. Don't you think? Yeah. Right? And we can see how it then, because it's a continuum of consciousness. And we want to say, oh, there's rocks over there and plants over there and us over here and God over there. But if it's a continuum of consciousness, the idea here is that it's actually all one. And so we could as easily say everything is the divine universe, or we could say it's all human. This is the human universe. Personally, I like to say this is the conscious universe. And that consciousness is not only that which is impelling into the created universe, but then is actually the created universe itself in expression. Spirit and matter, consciousness, all one. One thing happening. One thing happening. And so rather than imagining some being in the sky, right, that which is what theism means. Theism means there's a being. Polytheism means many beings that are gods. Theism, one, monotheism, one being that is a god. When monism, well, it's just all the same. It's all the one infinite power and presence. And we can either stand on our human side and look at spirit and look at the divine and feel very far away from it, or we can intellectually stand in the divine side and say, well, that human thing, I don't know, it's not so good. We've got the ego, we've got all those issues, we've got false beliefs. Yeah, I'm not liking that part so much. But do you see in the cosmic self, there is a recognition that our life is the expression of the individualized being that we are, the universe showing up as us, as an individual, getting to see itself, getting to be itself, getting to play in the Play-Doh of life and know that it is doing so. Now, I don't know about you, but like right about there, my brain goes on tilt. What? I don't really get that part. I don't really know how that works. And I don't know about you, but I do not necessarily walk around every day feeling like the universe. Right? Sometimes I feel very much in my whatever I'm in. And we can play with this intellectually and be with it intellectually and kind of work with it. The problem is that there is a point where we start imagining this both and infinite individual reality and our brains just go on tilt. Because we are actually using our limited understanding to try to figure it out. And so, along with the mystics of the ages, the philosophers, the saints, the musicians, the artists, the New Thought people, and the scientists who are exploring this, right? We have to experience it. At some point, we go to that place where the intellectual idea of it is so compelling that we're willing to do what it takes to experience it. And the only way to experience it is to actually set aside that very limited mind that actually can't contain it, that can't actually fully understand it. And so Ernest Holmes says it, Deepak will say it, all the people we read will say it, we teach it. There's one place where this starts. And where we experience that, and where we experience that universal, and that is in the silence, in the stillness. So now Petra's going to get on her little soapbox right now. I'm forewarning you, my little soapbox, my little meditation soapbox. I believe that half of what we say, maybe even more than half, maybe up to 90% of what we say is meditation, and that what we're doing is meditation is not actually meditation at all. It's relaxation, it's contemplation, it's flights of transpersonal experiences, it's psychic phenomena, it's guided visualizations, it's all kinds of things. But it's not meditation, because meditation takes us to the stillness. And there's one way, and one way only, that we get to the stillness, and that is in the silence. So I was very classically trained in meditation. I was trained to sit, to breathe, to notice my posture, to work, to be alert and awake. I was not allowed to lean back or find a relaxed state, because meditation isn't for relaxation. Meditation is for awakening. And then we sat in silence. And it was boring as hell. It's like, oh God, I can't believe I'm sitting here. I'm still sitting here day after day, week after week. I'm still sitting here. And people they're seeing colors, and they're having all these flights of experiences, and they're drifting off into the universe. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here paying attention to my breath. Okay, I'm sitting here. months and months of sitting here. And then I noticed, well, the truth is, and I wasn't actually just sitting there. What I was actually doing was sitting there, and I was thinking about things, what I needed to do tomorrow, that person I had a conversation with, and I redid the whole conversation in my mind. I made lists of things and I said, oh, look, I'm meditating. The universe the intuition is telling me things. And about that time, and my teacher was chuckling, about that time I realized, oh, no, I'm not meditating, I'm thinking. And I'm completely obsessed and absorbed with my thinking. And what happened in that moment? We become aware of our thinking. And in that moment, we are no longer our thinking, and we step back. In all the traditions, it's called the witness, the observer. And it is in that moment that we begin to see our thinking, and we begin to see our itch and our uncomfort and all the stuff that we do to get away from the silence, that awareness becomes revealed to us. The ground of awareness in which all of these things are happening begin to become revealed to us. But it can only be revealed to us if we are sitting in silence. If we are not using guided imagery, guided visualizations, please stop using music for your meditations. All of that interferes with this availability that we have to notice what is actually going on. And when awareness begins to reveal itself, and we begin to experience that field of consciousness, we begin to touch the center that Augustine says is everywhere. The whole of the one, which is center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Because what happens is that we begin to start expanding. From that place of awareness, we begin to start expanding, and we start looking for the edges of that awareness. And we start looking for the God, for the divine experience. And if we are willing to sit in silence long enough, what will happen is nothing. And that can be a sad and lonely place, because we have to stop giving up a God out there. We have to stop looking for a God out there that fills that space. And then we sit in the silence some more. And as we sit in that silence, do you see, and we keep it moving out into awareness, into infinity, all of a sudden, there's a moment where we become that. We're no longer looking for it. We become it. And in that moment, do you see, the universe and the individual exist simultaneously in a lived, felt experience. You no longer have to try to describe it or talk about it, because you realize that you are it. And from that place, the joy and the nectar of life flow. From that place, the welling up of love and joy is so palpable, because we are now experiencing the truth of who we are. The cosmic self, the universe, as the individual, seeing the universe be the individual. And the only way that I know how to get there, that I have experienced in my own life, and what seems to be corroborated by so many ways and places, is in the discipline of the silence. And if we are willing to sit in that place long enough, over and over and over and over and over again, joy and love will meet you there. And then we stop looking for the Christ consciousness or the cosmic self, because that is who we are. And so we seek to have these experiences together. Sunday morning, we have a meditation at 9 o'clock. If you come to the Wednesday night, many of you do, you all know, we meditate for 25 minutes in silence. And when you first start coming, it's excruciating. Just keep coming back. Just keep coming back. That silence is so important, because at some point we want to move beyond the thinking about it into the experience. We have a meditation retreat coming up on whatever day it is, sometime next week, I think it is, this next Saturday. Timothy Zoll, who's a master meditator, is going to spend a whole day with you guys in this experience. And I cannot urge you strongly enough to take advantage of the meditation experiences that we make available to you, to tap that inner space, because I promise you that after the boredom and after the frustration and after the nothing and after the loneliness is something so amazing. It changes everything. And so it is.